All right, ladies and gents, we are going to be starting the review today of all the lectures we have done. Next week we'll finish it out. And it's also a open forum for any type of discussion you want to have, any things you want to have clarified. As much as I can, I'll try to help. So let's go. So, our very first lecture, we looked at the basic concept of management, and we looked at several definitions, and we agreed that management is the attainment of organizational goals in an effective and efficient manner through planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And that leading term is a new component of what management is because in the decades past, management did not have much leading involved. It essentially was more instructional based. All right. So managerial skills are conceptual, technical, and human. Again, all of this today speaks to what we consider now to be new management, that human skills. That human skills is part of new management because when we compare it to old management of centuries past, um, there was no human skills. It was all about um, having persons do this work for you for certain pay and not a care in the world as to their living conditions or working conditions are. Why some managers fail? Some managers fail because they misinterpret market signals. They 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 have lack of team building skills, inability to execute on strategy, inability to adapt and understand the rapid pace of change around them. And this is something that would be, good for an exam question to explain and look at from the perspective of the coronavirus pandemic and how it may have led to the failure of some businesses um, who weren't necessarily forced to close, but they did not adjust to the rapid change that was happening around them, and they wanted to continue to maintain their current their usual business as usual, but it's not business as usual. You have to adapt to the rapid pace of change around, and coronavirus is as best of an example as anyone can get. The types of management types. We have vertical and we have horizontal, and this you can use an organization chart to see to better understand it. The vertical is the hierarchy of reporting. Reporting is usually from the bottom goes up. So you have top managers, the C-suite, the middle managers, your general managers, and then we have your frontline managers. And your middle managers can be project managers, can be functional, or can be functional or general. I'm hearing lots of thunder outside. I'm not. I haven't been outside to see. Is there lots of rain all over? I'm hearing some thunder. Your managerial roles. It's informational. It's interpersonal. It's decisional. Or the interpersonally informational. All of which can again speak to the new management competencies. Informational, it can be, you can look at it as being derived from whole management concepts where sometimes you manage persons through how much information you give them, as sometimes we say on a need to know basis. You only tell persons the information that you want them to know, and you think that they're going to use that information for the purpose of achieving certain goals. So informational. And then we started to look at the old workplace and the new workplace. And the old workplace was routine, specialized tasks, male dominated. Old workplace, the worker has no brain. The worker has no ability to think. All of those things. And the new workplace is rapid environmental shifts, dramatic changes. New workplace looks at the global economy, multi-ethnic, um, multi-gender, well, more gender balance, I would like to say. Um, Old workplace is very structured. There's a lot of accountability in the old workplace. And I know for your first exam, this is what something we spoke about, where the structure and accountability of the old workplace is still very much relevant today. It's still used today. It still has a purpose today because you want in your organization to have some measure of accountability to um, for persons of the work that they do. And you would see later on in the same first lecture that management is about having people feel accountable for their work and feel accountable for their contribution, and not necessarily accountable to a person, but they're accountable to their work. Their quality of work is supposed to be their be their standard. And some of the forces that affect organization, the technological, the globalization, the pest analysis, the political, economic, social, technological. Um, Technology looks at outsourcing, joint ventures, alliances, the role of the internet, and the ability to do e-commerce has a real impact on organizations. Globalization, outsourcing, getting your labor cheap elsewhere, getting your expertise, sometimes even getting your think tank might can be even be outsourced. Where I would have mentioned some companies such as Fiverr that has a lot of freelancers working for them, where you can just tell them an idea that you would like to have done, and you can now outsource this to them to fully create a business plan, or fully get the take your vision and now create a detailed process of how you can get that vision achieved, right? So even those things can be outsourced. It's not only physical labor gets outsourced. It could be also for production, for materials as well, can usually get outsourced. Workforce diversity again is also a force on the organization, and you also look at fields that were perhaps dominant and dominated by one gender that has now adjusted, where persons of both genders can be in the same fields and compete for the same jobs. So all of those things are forces. Um, and we talk about the organizations being embrace and identify opportunities within chaos. And I know I said I used the term with respect to opportunity and chaos. What was the phrase I used? Can someone remind me what was the phrase I used when we're talking about opportunities in times of chaos? Can anyone remember? We talk about the organization willing to learn and to be a learning organization, to invest in research and development, to be more competitive. Anyone has the answer for me? When we spoke about opportunities during times of chaos, what are these opportunities during times of chaos? Nobody can remember? It's a quotation from Jack Ma. Jack Ma was the person. Goodwill, someone to see it. Jack Ma made a statement regarding chaos and opportunity. 1 minute, and then I'll tell you. Nobody can come up with it. Right? So we said that organizations must learn to value change and innovation and speed over stability and efficiency. Nobody? All right. Well, so what I said was this: when every crisis presents opportunity, yes. Every crisis presents opportunity, yes, Kavita P. But this is the exact phrase. When people start to worry, there's opportunity. And in this pandemic, we can talk about persons who were worried about protecting themselves and protecting their families. So there was an opportunity for entrepreneurs and organizations to provide solutions for all of that worrying. Provide solutions such as sanitation supplies. Provide solutions to let them to let them see that your organization is doing its absolute best to ensure that you are protected when you enter our organization. To ensure that people can have peace of mind. So when people start to worry, there's an opportunity for an organization or an entrepreneur to now come up with a solution to this problem, to this worry that can now be transformed into a financial reward. So that was the quotation I was looking for. But thanks, Kavita P. Yes, all crises do have opportunities. And the new management competencies was derobing the old. We moved from control and command to more coaching and mentoring, relationship management, collaborative relationships. We spoke about team building, how important team building is to ensure the success of the organization. We talk about the learning organization culture, and this is something that I encouraged everyone in their future management jobs to have that at the background all the time, that your departments and your teams and your subordinates are always involved in learning, learning. We cannot come into an organization and think that we know all now. There's no more to learn, and what we say is how we go, because that would now take us into how most of our government-based ministries are operated, unfortunately, where there isn't much learning and there isn't much new application of techniques and technologies and methods, and we end up doing the same things we did in the 1960s all the way in 2020. So learning environment is very important. Managing crises and unexpected events, and crisis management was discussed some more in the community in community management as well. We're in a crisis right now. We have to be able to manage emotions, and we have to manage physical physical things as well. We talk about staying calm, being visible, putting people before business, telling the truth, knowing when to get back to business. So this is something that all organizations, so many organizations, especially private organizations, will have had to engage in to ensure that their workers and also their customers were understanding what was going on and understanding their position. Then we looked at the historical perspective of management, how long management has been around. It's 2,500 years. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. We looked at the historical perspective from in the context of the pest analysis, social forces, the different social forces that affected management theories, the different generations. We looked at the traditionalists, the baby boomers, the millennials, the generation X, generation Y. And what's important to these different generations from a social perspective? The baby boomers think is important, what Generation X think is important. Political forces, your governments, what roles do they play in organizations? The rules and laws that you must abide by when your organization is in a particular territory. Employee rights, organization design, environmental analysis. There are some countries that your organization must be be paying or some part of your revenues towards keeping the environment safe. There are some countries that would allow you to set up only if you can prove that you don't have any wastes that are damaging to the environment, because the environment, the ecological um, infrastructure is important to them, whether it be for tourism, whether it be it for sustainability. Economic forces, things that affect the market, um, economic freedom, competitive markets. And then we went on to talk about scientific management and the classical perspective, which includes scientific. Persons like Frederick Taylor, Gilbert, husband and wife team, Henry Gant, and Miss Emerson. Essentially, classical management, scientific management was about time and motion studies, talking about um, there's a separation of managers and workers, where managers alone do the thinking and workers just do the working, the physical labor. And that's still today, it still applies today, but we have a lot more consideration now for the persons who are working for us. Yes, because they may have ideas, they may have a perspective on how things are being done, because they are the ones actually doing the work. So scientific management was all about improving efficiency and production, being as efficient as it's possible to get the most out of your workers. And when we talk about bureaucratic organizations, and we compare them specifically to, right now, our government ministries are very bureaucratic. They are complex. They have specific job titles and obligations, and there is a system of supervision and subordination. Bureaucratic organizations are generally inefficient and slow, but that's because of the persons who are operating the organizations, and not necessarily because of the different complexities that are involved. Is usually people who are operating your organizations are the ones that create it, that make it inefficient, that make it slow, that make it generally bad. And then we looked at these guys such as Fayol and Mary Parker and Chester Bernard, Henry Fayol. Fayol had his 14 management principles. Mary Parker, Mary Parker spoke about the Mary Parker spoke about people being responsible to their work and not to someone, and this is what we was talking about earlier. Mary Parker wanted to ensure that relationships were built and people see themselves working with a manager rather than for a manager, right? So the manager and the worker works together. And what does that sound like? We discussed this in subsequent lectures, where uh, the management and the working team, they all work together to come and create goals and objectives. What is that called? Like, I guess I gave her the answer there already. It's called management by objectives, where your goals and objectives and your targets are discussed fully by both the management team and the and your worker team, your worker pool, and it's mutually agreed upon. And we said that there were basic achievements in terms of management by objectives, and then it's now incumbent upon the workers to now exceed that expectation. Right? You spoke about the interactive nature of relationships, people up and down the hierarchy of the organization. Chester Bernard spoke about cliques, and can anyone remember what I said about cliques and groups? What did I say about cliques and groups? Cliques and groups, ladies and gents. What did I say about cliques and groups? Are cliques good or bad? Do you all have cliques in your class right now? Or did you have cliques in your class before coronavirus? Because I guess nobody's in class. Come on. Maria, yep. Samantha, C, a good manager should be able to use social groups. Very good. Correct, Samantha, C. Yes. I think you said yes, they are good, right? Well, yes, they are good in that they can be used for good because a clique is usually, the start of a team. A clique is usually the start of perhaps a project team. A clique would be persons who would have similarities and certain things amongst them that they enjoy amongst each other. And you can now use that to and harness it for good. You can also have a clique that is engaged in bad, Alexis. So you have to look at your clique that is engaged in bad and look at that if there's a clique that is disrupting your organization negatively. What do you do with such a clique? What do you do with a clique that is causing negative disruption? Because remember, disruption can be positive and negative. What do we do with a clique that is causing negative disruption? Can anyone make a guess as to what I said you're supposed to do? But yes, Alexis, cliques can be used for good. Yes, Samantha, see, cliques can be used for good if you harness them properly in your workforce. So if you have one that is doing bad, what do we do with a bad group? HR comes into play when they are just being. Also, yeah, so okay, so you have a bad group. It's like okay, hi HR, we have a bad group here. Come on, sort them out, please. Samantha, see that's what you'll do? You'll be like taking a step back and tell HR to sort them out. I'm asking this deliberately because as a manager, I want to know if that's what you do. That Alexa says break it up. Shakila said, show them who is the boss. Shakila, you're on point. Yes, Alexis, break it up. So to build on what Shakila is saying, you have to show them who is the boss. And we're not doing this from the perspective, yes, Vikash, fire them might be a bit abrasive off the bat. You don't want to be appear abrasive and aggressive like that. Fire them. But I'm building on what Shakila said, and that you need to show them who is the boss. And in all cliques, there will be an informal leadership of that clique, whether it be one person or two persons. And you have to have discussions with those informal leaders about what they are doing to your organization or doing to your department, and give them an opportunity to adjust and correct, because um, we all know groups and organizations have persons who sometimes blindly follow, or just do it because of peer pressure, or involved in something because they think it makes them look good, etc. You know how that goes, right? So you find the informal leaders of that group or that clique, and you talk with them, give them an opportunity to, and show them some techniques, and show them some suggestions on how they can use their group to do good for the organization, do good for the department. And if that isn't forthcoming, as Shakila said, you show them who's the boss. As Alexis says, you break it up, because you need to know, let them know that their behavior or their actions or their lack of actions will not be tolerated. And I know I would have mentioned, you do things like shoot them in the head. I'm just putting it in there for emphasis. Shoot them in the head in front of everyone. I'm writing this because it might. I want you to. I want you to be like, ooh. So you remember the discussion. We always talk. I know. Yes, we talk about punish in private, praise in public, which is why I would always praise the students who do well in their exams, in the video, so that it wouldn't be encouraged. And I wouldn't scold anyone in public, in the live. But for this purpose, you need to shoot them in the head in front of everyone, because exactly what Shakila said. You need everyone to know who is the boss and who is in control and who is the one that is entrusted with the responsibility of performance and executing on getting the company's goals and objectives achieved in an efficient and effective manner. Yes. And you will not be tolerating contempt. You will not be tolerating blatant disregard of rules, and you will not be tolerating inadequate performance. So I'm saying this to emphasize that cliques and groups are good, they can be used for good, but if it is they are not being good and they are given opportunities to be good and they're not taking it, then the leaders of that group need to be shot in the head in front of everyone, because it's not going to set the tone. It's not going to set the tone that this person here means it means business. I don't want you to get it confused with what old management is and it's heartless, etc. I'm saying that you would have given this group through its informal leadership an opportunity to change and adjust, something that old management never did. Old management would just get rid of you one time, right? So that's the point about cliques and groups. All right, and then the human relations movement, which is the Elton Mayo and Hawthorne. They looked at the effect of fatigue and monotony on job productivity. Hawthorne looked at the having too much of a relationship with your participants and how it can affect outcome. So he concluded that employee output increases when management treats them in a positive manner, and this has now become a mechanism for organizational productivity. And I used a quotation here from Richard Branson regarding this, where employee output increases when management treats them in a positive manner. Now, there's a simple one that we talk about that we talk about, and then there is a little longer quotation that we spoke about. Can anyone remember either of them? And this is with regard to Employee output increases when management treats them in a positive manner. Can anyone remember what it is? Employee output increases when management treats them in a positive manner. Happy employees are productive employees. That's right, Shakila. Correct. Happy employees, productive employees. That's right. And what's the other one? What's the other one? Can anyone help? What's the other quotation I used? Haven't heard from Precious all morning. I guess this would be like the roll call, right? So I heard from Faria, I heard from Shakila. Well, I see Jahil WhatsApping, but he's not in the chat on YouTube. I heard Samantha C teach them so they can leave. But Samantha C, you got it right. Yes, train them well so that they can leave you. Yes, Ray. Train them well so that they can leave you. I had to get that emoticon, that emoji or whatever it is. Treat them well so that they can leave you. Train them well so that they can leave you. But treat them well so that they don't want to. That's so important. Give your employees all the opportunities to learn and train and grow. Teach them all of your knowledge. Give them as all of your knowledge as you can. But with that, treat them well, treat them with respect, give them opportunity, show that you are concerned about their personal life as well to an extent, and how comfortable they are at work, etc., so that they won't want to leave. So yes, Shakila, perfect. Happy employees are productive employees. Yes, Samantha C. Train them. Train them. The quote is train them. Teach or train so that they can leave, but treat them well so that they want to stay. Good. Nice. And then we talk about Maslow hierarchy of needs and how these things can affect your organization's productivity. If some of these needs are not being met, sometimes these people are unable to produce good results. Theory X and theory Y assumptions. Theory X and theory Y looks at theory X and theory Y. Theory X, persons generally are pessimistic. Persons generally are not very productive. Theory Y, very optimistic, very productive, very imaginative. Then we look at organizational development. And then we looked at systems theory. This was asked in the exam. How systems theory can be looked at in terms of management. We looked at open systems, closed systems, subsystem interdependencies, entropy. All of these things are terms that you all should be familiar with. Hi, sir. Precious here. Good morning. And this is being said by Leandra. Leandra, you and Precious next to each other? Wait, how is this working? It's Leandra's profile, but I don't understand. Oh, okay. All right. So you all study together. Good. That's good. That's good. I am encouraging you all to, as much as, are you all wearing masks? Do you all live together? Are you all relatives? Anyway, um, I encourage you all to spend, to, if you, once you can, however you can, to work together to learn the information and share your knowledge. Some of you, and I would have seen that for farm admin, first exam, Shakila and Precious were the ones who did excellent. For community, I believe, who was it? For community, Biana and Nishad. Nishad Ali, are you there, boy? Oh, Nishad? I know I don't see you. I don't hear from you at all in on the YouTube chat, and I don't hear from you at all on the WhatsApp chat. I only see you appear in exams, Nishad. So you did well in community, and then for Insti, I give I could leave that for tomorrow. But then there were another two different students who did well for Insti. So I'm happy to see that, you know, the different ones may have different competencies. So I want you all to share your information, share knowledge with each other. Right. So open and closed systems, open and closed systems. Open systems are ones that are affected by the environment. All organizations are open systems, all humans are open systems. Closed systems are those that are not affected by the environment. We use the example of a stove that's cooking on a pot that's cooking on a stove has no effect on the external environment, has absolutely no effect, whether you're playing music, whether you're it's in the winter, whether it's in the hot sun. The amount of heat that's getting to that stove is constant and not affected by the environment. Versus open, which is everything about the environment affects the system. Right? Synergy, intersystem interdependencies, and then contingency. And then we looked at some elements of quality. We looked at total quality management. It has, gained a lot of popularity since the 1980s, where we have moved from quality assurance to quality control, sorry, to quality assurance to continuous quality management. So TQM looks at employee involvement, benchmarking, continuous improvement. The learning organization, we spent some time on learning organization. I urge all of you to use these things to ensure that your organization is learning its systems theory, personal mastery, mental models, shared vision. And then we touched on technology and e-commerce, e-business, enterprise resource planning, IT and its impact on outsourcing. And now, because of the pandemic, you have e-commerce now being at the forefront, and people have been businesses that were hesitant to engage in e-commerce are now forced to engage in e-commerce. Businesses who are already in e-commerce would be happy to know that they have no teeth in issues. They just can get on by and build on it. E-commerce is definitely becoming more and more the preferred method of doing transactions. So that is your review of lecture one. I invite any questions, queries, and we'll end today's session if there are no questions or queries, and we'll pick back up tomorrow for community and INSTI, and I'm happy to discuss INSTI exam, the assignment, the first assignment. Community, I think we just have the business plan to look at. So any questions, queries on today, on what we did today? Any questions, queries on your second in course or your lit review, which should be next week? Hopefully it's a nice simple one. And just to go over some dates again with you all, the we want your lit review most likely will be asked for next week, so you'll get maybe about 2 or 3 days to get it done, and hopefully we do have no confusion about when it's going to be due for, right? So people can do the lit review on time. The lit review most likely is going to be done in groups of two. That's what we did in summer. So um, I think you may have to start arranging yourselves in groups of two and submit the names to me via email or via the chat so that when I'm correcting, I will know how to assign the grades. And also, your second assignment should be on the week of the 16th, and I can hopefully get all of that corrected by the week of the 30th. So by Monday, 30th of November, I should have all your exams corrected. Actually, it may not be that enough. Um, most likely by December 4th, I should have all your exams corrected because it takes because of you all. I have to read so much, Um, you all write a whole set of stuff that's unnecessary. So I am appealing to you all. Look at the question and answer the question. I know some of you because you may not you may not be confident of what your answer is. You may want to all right, Kavita P. If an assignment is due at midnight on a particular day, could you put the time as 11:59 rather than 12 a.m.? All right. So 12 a.m. Okay, sure. Um, so answer the question and be confident about your answers. The less I have to read, it is easier it's going to be to mark and marking these exams takes a lot of time. I usually sometimes would take in to mark all of your exams. I would take 3 days. 3 days to mark one exam. So farm admin takes me 3 days. NC takes me 3 days. Com takes me 3 days. So the less I have to read unnecessary information, give me a little break, okay? So yes, Kavita P, I'll take that suggestion, or I will tell Dr. Miraj to just use that time when he's putting it up on my e-learning. Um, good. So no questions, no queries. Bradley, hey, Bradley, how strong is the penalty for exceeding the word limit? Right. Right. So it's good that you asked that. I'm asking all students in your lit review, in your second assignment, and in your final exams. Put your word count at the top of all of your answers, please. It will guide you as well. It will guide you as well. Because I do at times when I notice that I'm reading a lot, I would do the total and see if you exceeded the word limit by plenty. I understand, but Bradley, I want you to appreciate that it's something that you may need to work on because there are some other students who are able to get the information out there with concise phrases and concise explanations. So anything over 100 of the word limit would be penalized. I would take off a point 0.5 of a mark or maybe perhaps even 1 mark. All right, so please don't exceed your word limit. Kavita P. I know max word count is 500 was the minimum. The minimum, there is no minimum, Kavita P, but remember these are essay questions. So um, it's expected to you, the questions usually would be discussed. The question usually be explained. So explanations and discussions usually aren't one word sentences. There usually would be a sentence that's built upon with maybe 2 or 3 other lines for explanation. So that's how we mark. All right. Any more questions, ladies and gents? I'll give you just a half a minute again to ask any other question, or let me know if you're going to ask a question. And you know that I'm available via WhatsApp. Well, you all clearly know because when I put up these grades for was it Com? Everybody WhatsApping me. Yes. So you all could WhatsApp me if you have any questions, queries. As much as I can, I will. I will assist. All right. So no questions, no queries. I'll see you, some of you tomorrow, most of you tomorrow. If not, whoever is not in those classes tomorrow, I'll see you all next week, where we will continue the review. Have a good evening, ladies and gents. Take care.